4.54 billion years ago, the planet that we call Earth was born. It was hot and volatile, but as it aged, its true purpose became known to the universe. It suffered many beatings, but while others perished, it stood strong. Its journey from beginning to today is amazing, and today we're going to show you its biological one. Welcome to our life science timeline. Sit back, relax, and prepare to be staggered at how far our planet has come. Enjoy. 3.8 billion years ago, the Archean era began, and was the one that Earth got its first life forms. It was the genesis of life on Earth. The first ocean formed here. It was small, and there were a few small islands in it. The very high carbon dioxide levels subsided due to the introduction of photosynthesis by cyanobacteria. The Earth's biological system had now succeeded in introducing the basic elements for life to survive. There wasn't even extreme temperatures due to the sun being very faint back then, so carbon dioxide did not prove to be a problem of heat. This period of 1.3 billion years in length started everything that is alive today.
$545 million years was the start of a memorable period, the Cambrian period. The reason the Cambrian period is one of the more memorable ones is because of the huge explosion that gave birth to such diverse creatures and techniques of living. These creatures evolved so that they were now able to swim, crawl, hunt, and hide away from other evolving creatures. Some creatures even developed shells, allowing geologists to discover such fossils. And on a rare occasion, were able to discover soft, squishy fossils. Some of the most famous discoveries took place at the Burger Shale site. Even because of this big explosion of creatures evolving, there were still no creatures living on land and almost nothing in water. This area slowly ended 495 million years ago, leading into the Ordovician period.
This period started as long as 495 million years ago. In this period, most life was still restricted to the seas. The seas were shallow and hot for most of this period, but at the end it experienced a 500,000 year long ice age. The drift of the supercontinent Gondwana mainly caused this time. The period ended with a massive mass extinction.
443 million years ago, the Earth witnessed its first mass extinction. A period where the Earth would see 2 dying times in a space of 1,000 years. It was this mass extinction which should wipe out a massive 85% of marine life, as the Great Ice Age had messed with the chemistry of the sea, causing the third greatest mass extinction, and ultimately creating the Silurian period.
The Silurian period began about 443 million years ago. During this period, marine life began to grow rapidly. Reefs became bigger, and the creatures of the deep learned how to hunt and defend themselves. The coral was made out of different materials than the reefs today. Due to the ending of the ice ages, the water level rose, causing the sea to cover more of the land.
The Devonian period. Dawning from about 416 million years to 358 million years ago, the Devonian period was the fourth period of the Paleozoic era. The Devonian is otherwise known as the Age of Fishes, as it spawned a remarkable variety of fish. With this being said, this period was a significant one for the evolution of plants, the first insects and other animals. It was also a time of extensive reef building within the shallow parts of the ocean. There was one main supercontinent of Gondwana, which occupied most of the southern hemisphere.
The late Devonian mass extinction was a grueling torture session for life in the shallow seas. This extinction was not a single event, but several million years of assassination for life on Earth. This extinction hammered sea life, and the powerful ocean that we know today was lifeless and without oxygen, and only the sturdy bacteria could hold their ground. There have been many accusations as to what could have done this, but for now, we will never know. The Carboniferous period is a major leap for life on land, as it had the highest oxygen levels ever in Earth's history. which is a key aspect for us mammals and every other land-based animal. It also experienced the very first generations of reptiles. This is not only what this period did, however. It also gave us most of the coal that we use today for electricity. As plants grew and died at such a rate, they eventually became coal. Without them, we would be living lightless, heatless, and like animals. This period did have two very bad things in terms of life, however. It experienced the very first ice age, and at its very beginning, the late Devonian mass extinction.
290 million years ago, the Earth gave birth to a period of major evolution. The Earth would see a period of extraordinary activity. The Earth saw the Permian period. Reptiles were the kings of the world, blessed with amazing nature, where trees were the biggest skyscrapers. A period where the world was interconnected and linked by one supercontinent, called Pangaea, where everything was together, not by the internet, but by nature. A period that saw the cold ice age, but as the globe warmed up, would see the greatest mass extinction of all time. This revolutionary period, in its 42 million years, had changed life forever. The Permian period. 248 million years ago, the Earth had felt the pain and the devastation of the Great Dying. This was the Permian mass extinction, an event where a staggering 96% of all species had perished. This was an event which nobody understands, but an event which everybody feels. As the remaining 4% of the species still grace the Earth today, the asteroids, the floods, the eruptions, the catastrophic methane had led to the end of the Permian period, but the birth of the Triassic period, a huge progress in the Earth's history.
The Triassic period had to begin after the worst life extinction ever, and it took a while for life to recover and diversify. But even though life took a long time, once it got a grip on things, it took advantage of the heat, vast deserts, warm oceans, and the fact that there was almost no other life around. It evolved the first ever dinosaurs and mammals. You could view this period as the pioneering one, and the one that we all owe our lives to. The Earth also experienced a large geological change, because the one continent of Pangaea broke up and created the international boundaries that we know today. But now, just as everything was getting back to normal, the Triassic period experienced yet another mass extinction, ending just as it had begun. It was the only period to have the two mass extinctions linked to it, and it was two of the worst. That was the Triassic period.
18 million years, the Triassic period took place in what was the great date of the mass extinction that you know today as the Triassic and Jurassic mass extinction. After 2 or 3 phases combined, it gave way to this mass extinction that set life on the path that we are headed on today. Suspected today for the reason of this mass extinctions was comprised of 3 factors: climate change, flood basalt eruptions, and the most famous one that we all know is the asteroid ripping through Earth's atmosphere and wiping out at least half of Earth's life at this point in time, except for plants that have ruled this planet Earth as long as time itself. The Jurassic period started 205 million years right after the great extinction of the Triassic period. Quickly after, life built up to play host to one of the most diverse living organisms that the world had yet seen. Just some of these creatures, like the first birds that the world had seen, and some dinosaurs yet to be discovered. The continental breakup led up to the forming of the ocean that we know today as the Atlantic Ocean. The floors of these oceans are the oldest to date on planet Earth, while others have been recycled through plate tectonics.
The Cretaceous period. This was no ordinary time period. It was home to the most diverse range of species, from the formidable dinosaurs who ruled both land and seas, to smaller rodent-like creatures who buried in the ground. This was a warm period of time with no ice caps at the poles, creating the highest levels of water ever known to the Earth. Modern-day superpowers such as southern England and Midwest USA were submerged. The Atlantic Ocean grew wider, as North and South America drew apart from Europe and Africa. The Indian Ocean was formed as India started its move northwards towards Europe. This time period ended with the largest, most well-known of all the mass extinctions, the end of the long Herculean reign of the dinosaurs.
65 million years ago was the ending of a great period and the starting of an even greater period. But between these two great periods of life, something big happened. Something changed life as we know it. We understand this part in time as the Cretaceous Tertiary mass extinction. This period's most famous quality was wiping out all the dinosaurs. Not only these creatures perished though, some plants and the remainder of the pterosaurs had disappeared from Earth, leading up to this mass extinction. Some creatures were already depleted in numbers leading up to this mass extinction. Many expected reasons for this depleting number of creatures was believed to be because of dramatic falls in sea levels and drastic changes in the climate. Then the cherry on the top of the ice cream was the asteroid hitting the planet in what we now call Mexico.
Even in polar regions. The mountain range, which we now know as the Himalayas, was formed during this period, which caused lots of moving between the continents. Many species of grass evolved, which gave two main characteristics of this particular epoch: plant life and the moving of the continents.
The Oligocene epoch. 33 million years ago, the Earth experienced this epoch. There was a massive global cooling. This epoch caused a massive climate change where glaciers were there and ice ages possible. Grasslands grew quickly and forests, mainly tropical, shrunk at the same pace. As animals evolved, fast-running prey and predator species arose.
The Miocene epoch began approximately 23.8 million years ago. This is the epoch where the apes started. At the end of this epoch, human ancestors split from chimpanzee ancestors. Forests and grasslands continued to grow and expand. In the seas and oceans, the kelp forests started to grow for the first time and soon became part of the thriving ecosystem that this planet has to offer.
A great 5 million years ago, the world would for the first time observe different seasons, allowing a diverse climate, where the Earth's land shape would develop into a shape similar to that of today's. The cooling temperatures had meant that the North Pole would be permanently frozen, also allowing grasslands and crops to thrive. The Pliocene epoch had seen the birth of the human lineage, and it's a significant moment in the Earth's history, as it would lead the way for the presence of evolution and development of the human race. This was the great Pliocene epoch. 2.6 million years ago, the Earth had witnessed the Pleistocene epoch, where images of a cold, iced world had transformed into the expansion of many warm deserts, creating grinding rocks and dangerous storms. A time in history where the glaciers came and went, and had ultimately ended with the last ice age the Earth would ever see. A period where it seemed like there was no water, but as the Earth heated up, there would be a great abundance of water, allowing the species that had graced the Earth time to excel and ultimately evolve, developing into bigger, smarter, and stronger species. This was the Pleistocene epoch.
The Holocene epoch, also known as the recent epoch. This epoch only started 11,500 years ago, and it is still here with us in the present day. Glaciers finally started to leave the Earth. That marked the end of the most recent ice age. The Earth needed more and more wood, and agricultural land grew accordingly. The world still thinks of the Holocene epoch as a warm time, but we are currently still in an ice age. There are still ice caps near the two poles on the Earth, while the Earth as a whole is just in an interglacial phase. The Earth owes their life to this epoch. Thank you, Holocene epoch.